This week, Amazon are facing a large boycott, or that is at least the organisers' hopes, of all its services, including Amazon, Twitch, where we are currently streaming this, Whole Foods, everywhere you get your Amazon services, in an attempt to apply some pressure in response to Jeff Bezos's complicity with the Trump regime, profit gouging, working conditions, all of the kind of various concerns and oppositions that people have to Amazon. And it seems to be getting some media traction. Here is the Atlanta First news.
Amazon is facing a week-long boycott. The group behind the movement says they want to send a message loud enough to shake up the system. Organizers with the People's Union USA claim that Amazon hurts small businesses and exploits its workers. In addition to Amazon, the union is also pushing for people to avoid the other companies owned by the retail giant, which include Ring, Whole Foods, and Prime Video. The Amazon boycott comes just 1 week after a 40-day Target fast began. Atlanta pastor Dr. Jamal Bryant, senior pastor of New Birth Missionary Baptist Church, leading that fast. He's encouraging African Americans to not shop or invest stock in the company. He called out the company's shift away from diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. The company was once a leading advocate for DEI initiatives in the business world.
So it's an exceptionally broad-based boycott. It is the entirety of Amazon's services that are being targeted. There is also a broad number of grievances that it appears to be focusing upon. We can find somewhere, one key voice in this seems to be an Instagrammer who has the handle Go Constance. Could not tell you what his actual name is.
It's the day.
But let me play you his Instagram reel or video from today. Or from 3 days ago, sorry.
Amazon blackout begins, and we are going from today, March 7th, all the way to March 14th, and we are holding one of the biggest corporations in the world accountable. And I'm going to be honest with you, I am going to be in your face about this every single day, because that's what it's going to take, that constant reminder, like no Amazon, no Prime, no Kindle, no Audible, no Whole Foods, delete the app, cancel your subscription. We must hit these corporations where it hurts. As I've been saying, we are the economy, and without us, they are nothing. And when this is done, we move on to Nestle, and we keep on going. We do not stop, because these corporations have been price gouging. They've been cutting wages. They've been stuffing toxic ingredients into our foods. They've been rigging the system in their favor for far too long. But now, the people have an opportunity to fight back. So get loud, spread the word, and hold the line, my friends, because this is just the beginning. We are here and we are not backing down. Please take a moment to visit thepeoplesunionusa.com, see what it is all about, sign up for free, and most importantly, share this video, my friend. Thank you.
So this is a little bit different to the way that most boycotts work. I've been interested to see this get kind of a reasonable amount of press coverage for something that I hadn't come across slightly more naturally. The Boston Globe picking it up, The Independent here in the UK, CNN, quite a few places reporting on this story. I'm interested to know whether anyone in the chat or watching this clip later down the line had heard about this before I started talking about it now. Maybe I'm just in some kind of black hole. And this is clearly sort of US based, so I would not be surprised if it existed. And I hadn't heard about it. That, people don't have to phone me before they do things. But I will say that the breadth of this boycott is probably going to be a bit of a challenge. One of the, or at least something I've seen suggested that's come out of most of the research that has been done about past boycotts, is that generally speaking, doing things that are really targeted tend to work better than things that are super broad. So, and in one sense, kind of this massive list of grievances, which are clearly at the heart of this boycott, I think do make it slightly more difficult for this kind of thing to have an impact, because you're not really sort of saying to Amazon what you would like them to do. You're kind of just saying, could you not exist? I guess the DEI thing is maybe something they can actually act upon, but it's kind of unclear exactly what they're supposed to do from this. But particularly, I think the lack of focus on a given sort of product or set of products. So one thing you'll see is if you have done any kind of looking up of the sort of boycott, divestment and sanctions movement, is that, the BDS movement uses historically successful methods of targeted boycotts inspired by the South African anti-apartheid movement, the US civil rights movement, and the Indian and Irish anti-colonial struggles, among others, worldwide. We must strategically focus on a relatively small number of carefully selected companies and products for maximum impact. The idea broadly being that if you focus on really specific things, then if you do manage to have the impact that you're hoping to have, then it is really obvious that it is you doing that thing. And it also makes it achievable for people, right? Particularly for something like boycotting goods that are made or created or use components from or whatever the occupied territories. That can be really confusing for people. It's a lot of different companies, all of this, and so actually picking out a few things means that people are able to go, okay, right, there's like these 3 things that I'm going to focus on, and that is explainable to me without me needing this big like map of how and why all of these different things are made where they're made. It is a lot more difficult to that. It's a lot more difficult if you just kind of go, just don't engage with Amazon more broadly, because it's much harder to make it clear from Amazon's end that if there is a blip in their numbers or whatever, that it is you doing it. At the same time, it makes it quite difficult for people who, might not know that Ring doorbells are made by Amazon. That being said, not trying to kind of poo-poo the effort here, right? The challenge is that the reason, or at least one of the reasons, that the folks behind this boycott seem so aggrieved at the company is that it has this kind of monopoly and monopsony position in the market. A huge amount, I think I'm right in saying over 50% of online retail in the US goes through Amazon now. That not only means that they're a monopoly on the consumer end in terms of a lot of people, the only place that they will shop is Amazon because maybe they paid for a Prime subscription and that therefore things will arrive quickly, etc. Also, it just tends to have a lot of the things that you need, and therefore you don't need to shop around because you can just go directly to Amazon. But on the other end, it means that most people selling a product these days need to do so through Amazon, right? Because if you're not on Amazon, that's a huge market that you're not selling to, right? And this is particularly true for some of the specific industries or specific platforms that were mentioned in one of those earlier videos. So Twitch is one of two companies that are really worth doing this particular kind of live streaming on, right? You've got Twitch and you've got YouTube. I think I'm right in saying X now also does live streaming. Facebook does it, I think, still. But not in quite the same way. It's much more of a kind of peripheral product on those platforms. It doesn't have the engaged viewer base. It doesn't have the monetization systems, all of this. And so you do only have those two choices. Kindle, very similar, has monopoly power within the ebooks industry. You can get a Kobo, you can buy ebooks through other means. It's kind of a pain. It just is so easy on Kindle, and the product, it's not great. The physical Kindle, like the technology of it is sort of fine, but that's all it needs to be, right? I can't imagine my Kindle doing anything additional that it doesn't do, because like I just want to read words off of it. And so the monopoly and monopoly position of Amazon is the reason that these folks are so aggrieved by it. But it does also make it just so difficult to have a meaningful impact upon. What we're really seeing in this is, I think, an attempt to respond to Trumpism in some way. Like the sort of the broader anti-Amazon things in terms of the way they treat workers, the way in which, they really manage to squeeze people that sell on the platform through fulfillment fees and through encouraging them to advertise, through making them compete with scammers, through often ripping off products that other people have made. So there is all of that, all those background grievances, but it does seem like the acute things that have set people off to want to boycott it at the moment are the changing their views on having DEI programs, and Jeff Bezos in particular's complicity with the Trump regime. Whether this is something that can be a successful response, however, is more of a question. And yeah, I saw a kind of strange response to it, which kind of highlighted some of these kind of tensions, I guess. And if up till this point I've sounded mildly negative about the whole thing, which I don't think I am. I think I'm realistic about the potential that it might have an impact. My response to this is slightly different. So this is someone posting in the r/Kindle subreddit, which says, why boycotting Kindle/Amazon hurts everyone but Amazon. I looked at my royalties dashboard this morning and wondered if writing books is going to continue being viable for much longer. There's a misconception that authors just sit down, type out a book and hit publish. In reality, writing books comes with costs, editing, cover design, formatting, advertising, and those expenses don't go away just because sales drop. I'd also say your time is a cost. Don't your time is worth something. For indie authors, every sale matters. Every page read in Kindle Unlimited counts. Kindle Unlimited is a kind of subscription service that you can have on Kindle, and the way it works for authors is that they can sort of enroll their book in Kindle Unlimited, and rather than purchasing it, people like borrow it a bit like a library, and then they get paid for however many pages get read through it. A drop in sales isn't just a statistic on a graph. For most indie authors, it's the difference between paying a bill or losing a home, putting food on the table or not, keeping the lights on or falling into financial ruin. And right now, sales are dropping. I would question whether, if you are selling few enough books that a rather small boycott against Amazon is having a big drop in your readership, I'd question whether it's falling into financial ruin territory. I would suggest maybe you should not be trying to rely on that. I don't know. I would suggest you'll probably have another job as well. I know why. I know people are boycotting Amazon this month, and I understand the reasons. If you believe in the cause, you should absolutely follow your convictions. But as indie books and small businesses struggle to stay afloat, I can't help but think about who really gets hurt when Amazon loses sales. Spoiler alert, it's not Jeff Bezos. First, a quick reality check. Jeff Bezos doesn't own Amazon the way most people think. He stepped down as CEO in 2021, and while he still holds stock, he owns less than 10% of the company. The real money behind Amazon is institutional investors, major funds, and corporate stakeholders, none of whom will feel a blip from the short-term boycott. And Amazon itself, the company doesn't make its profit from the online store. Amazon Web Services, AWS, which powers everything from Netflix to government websites, brings in more profit than the retail side ever has. But the boycott isn't targeting AWS, it's targeting Amazon Storefront, the marketplace where people buy books, household items, electronics, and third-party goods. So who really suffers? Third-party sellers, indie brands, independent authors, and marginalized voices who depend on Amazon's platform to be heard. Amazon makes billions from its own products, Echo, Kindle, Amazon Basics, and big-name brands that are sold in most tech stores, as well as the Amazon storefront, but small businesses and indie authors rely on Amazon for visibility and sales. And for many BIPOC, LGBTQ+, and disabled authors, Amazon provides one of the few accessible and equitable platforms to publish and reach readers without the barriers of traditional publishing. For indie authors, Amazon's Kindle Direct Publishing and Kindle Unlimited programs are our main way of reaching readers. Most of us are exclusive to Amazon because Kindle Unlimited requires it. I don't know that much about the scheme. I would assume that means that if you want to be in Kindle Unlimited, you can't sell your book elsewhere. That means when sales drop, even for a week, our books lose ranking, visibility, and future income. Since KU ebooks can't be sold anywhere else, there's no alternative ways to support these authors outside of Amazon unless they offer direct sales, which often doesn't help because a lot of authors buy their copies from, you got it, Amazon. And if you're outside of the US, either as a reader or as an author, shipping fees to get those books can cost more than the book itself and just isn't financially viable. Talks more about small businesses. You know, the boycott won't hurt the Amazon, won't hurt the people at the top because of AWS. I find this kind of disingenuous. One of the ways in which platforms like Amazon, but also Etsy and such. Tao saying in the chat, this whole thing reads like it's written by an Amazon marketing department. But like companies, like platform companies like Amazon, Etsy and the like, love to pitch themselves as enabling small businesses, right? And particularly this kind of narrative of, you know, we're for third-party sellers, indie brands, independent authors, and marginalized voices, BIPOC, LGBTQ+, disabled authors. You know, Amazon is a accessible and equitable platform. I don't necessarily want to suggest that this is, Amazon's conflict management team coming in to fight fires. I think what it is likely more is just someone who has, as Odyssey's saying in the chat, someone who's just really bought in to the way that Amazon likes to pitch itself to sellers and authors and people who are on the supply side of its platform. You know, I get to see this myself from that side, whether it's Twitch, whether it's YouTube. You know, I get all of the creator fluff come through. I have a nice fake Lego YouTube play button here that YouTube sent me. And these platform companies love to pitch themselves as enabling small businesses. The reality is that one aspect of being this particular kind of monopoly, and particularly a monopsony, so particularly being a platform which people that want to make videos to share or write books that they want to sell, people on the supply side, have to go through, is that Having like users on your platform rather than employees who create videos like a TV channel would, or if Amazon was just like a normal shop where it bought and sold goods itself rather than, as is mostly the case now, it is mostly third-party sellers, it gets all of the benefits of being a big shop that everyone goes to without any of the downsides of having to buy in stock itself and take the risk on different products. In fact, so if you want to sell a good through Amazon and you want it to be eligible for Prime shipping, then you have to use Amazon's own FBA services, so fulfilled by Amazon, wherein you kind of buy a load of goods, or you make a load of goods and you kind of send them to Amazon, who puts them in its warehouses and then delivers products when they're ordered through its vans. I mean, QWERTY saying in the chat, surely the main issue is Amazon's predatory practices against small businesses, like making authors sell books exclusively in the first place, also punishing sellers for selling products more cheaply on other websites. So the attempt here is to offer a bit of a rejoinder to that boycott and to say, it's not going to hurt Amazon, it's just going to hurt the sellers. And in many ways, like, that is articulating the problem. And the fact that then, and sort of, if this is a genuine reflection of someone's perspective, then, I do feel for them. If this boycott is genuinely making the difference between them keeping the lights on or falling into financial ruin, then this boycott must be incredibly successful. I would imagine there's some hyperbole being used there a little bit. But the challenge is that this is kind of going one step further, to the point that not only does Amazon have a monopoly, but you're also buying into the ideology of that in a way that almost makes the fact that it has a monopoly disappear in a way, because we just accept that that is the way it has to happen. One of the really interesting things that I think I've learned from watching Amazon over the years, and this is something I'm going to do a little bit of writing about at some point, but is the way in which we're often told that we really like choice. Kind of like a key aspect of capitalism, right? That consumers really like choice. And I think we do on the kind of smaller level, right? We like to decide what product we're going to buy. With things like what shop we're going to order it from, it's often not the case. Like, actually, we quite like the idea of having a one-stop shop for stuff. The real question, I would say, is whether we think that that platform should be unaccountable, and whether the profit from that platform should flow up to the second richest man in the world, I want to say. I often think that similar with the NHS here in the UK. There's often like politicians that want to privatise the NHS here in the UK will often talk about choice, like adding in choice. You don't have to go to the doctors that's closest to you. You can go to any doctor. You don't have to go to the hospital that's near you. We're going to add in like ways to make hospitals compete for your service, and the idea is that maybe that'll boost the quality of healthcare. And I'm always like, I don't really want to choose my hospital. Like, I just want to know that all of the hospitals are broadly good. Like,